Oh, no sooks, no lefties. That's my present to you. After Australia absolutely thumps England at the cricket, it's just a chance to sit back with normal people like yourself and have a chat about the week ahead and a couple of days in the rear vision mirror. Daniel Wild, of course, the Institute of Public Affairs, joining us from beautiful Adelaide, and the wonderful Lee Hanson, future Senator Lee Hanson. She joins us now from Tassie. Lovely to see you both. So, before I get onto polls and all the rest of it, and actually there's some really fascinating data that I haven't got to yet, which is about immigration and about why people feel the way they do about immigration. Look, you can both have a kick from in front about old mate Annika Wells. Don't you love this here? It's all within the rules. It's all within the rules for me to take the proverbial as often as she does, be it New York, be it Thredbo, be it the mate's birthday, be it the Melbourne Cup. Lee, look, will the Prime Minister try to protect her? Will the media probably move on? Yeah, but there's plenty there, and I'm saying the receipts, I've got them here. It is extraordinary, the freebies this lady takes.
It is extraordinary, and of course she's going to be protected. However, we need to hold her to account. The people need to hold her account, and the media need to hold her to account. It does not pass the pub test, pure and simple. Yep. When we have cost of living crisis here, and I heard you talk about before, the stats have risen in regards to people with multiple jobs, and then we hear about politicians jet setting on the taxpayers' dollars. I believe one meal an evening in Paris was $1,200 on what? Yeah. French champagne? Is that really essential for a parliamentary trip? We need to hold these politicians to account. We cannot have them defaulting to, oh, it's in the rules or the guidelines. If that's the case, the guidelines need reviewing. The guidelines need amending. And, you know, if it was coming out of her pocket and her wage, I bet you she wouldn't have spent that money, and she would have had more scrutiny over the spending. So I actually call for, Paul, we need to look at a independent body or some sort of contract that actually reviews this spending. But in addition to a spending, I think politicians should be held account for their false promises as well. You know, coming into elections, all the false promises they make and it never comes to fruition. Why can't we put in a system where if they don't deliver, they're held to account and they have to pay back or step back out of their jobs?
Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. Now, of course, you know, there'll be people saying, well, the pub test, what a masculine way of thinking about things. OK, the coffee club. What about the Moree Clay target shooting club? What about the ocean swimming club? None of them would say that this arrangement is acceptable. Daniel, it is a major fault line in the ruling class that basically, look, they know they're going to cop a couple of days of this staff, everyone moves on. But the Prime Minister also knows that if he gives in and creates an opportunity of accountability, then that becomes a scandal people don't forget. So what does that say about our political system? That the Prime Minister might actually be right, but anyone who knows about the Minister for Freebies at the moment would be absolutely red hot.
Well, that's exactly right, Paul. It's rules for thee and not for me. It's a double standard. It's a hypocritical double standard, and this is why why trust and confidence in politicians is at a record low. Now, you know, the excuse that Annika Wells gave for that dinner or that lunch that Lee mentioned was it was orientation. Orientation. I mean, imagine if you went to your boss tomorrow morning and said, "Hey, boss, I need $1,200 for lunch," and he says, "Why is lunch so expensive?" "Oh, we got orientation." "Oh, that's all right. Yeah, here's $1,200 for your lunch." I mean, would anybody else in the country get away with that? I mean, they're just having a laugh. They're having a laugh at us. It's such a pathetic excuse. And unfortunately, look, I live here in Adelaide, Paul. And if Annika wants my number, I'd be very happy to chauffeur her around next time she's in town, and I'll just charge her half. I'll charge her half of what she's charged taxpayers, so it's a good deal all around, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe that's what we could have, a billet system where Labor voters are able to put up Labor ministers, or if you want to be sort of four-fifths a com car, then fair enough. We'll see where it goes. As for where the Libs were on this, can we just show you Alex Hawke, who is, of course, the leader of the opposition in terms of the procedure in the House. This is what he had to say today, and I think he actually hit his target pretty well.
And the minister's defences don't seem to stack up either. I mean, if the minister is eating a muesli bar and falling asleep in Paris, then why is the taxpayer being charged for expensive dinners and expensive food and expensive travel if she's not partaking of them? So if her defence is, well, I was working really hard and I didn't eat much and I wasn't really paying attention or asleep at the table, then we could presumably recoup some of that.
Yeah. I liked the line where he said, among other things, that this would make the royals blush. Perhaps not Andrew, but maybe a more responsible royal somewhere. All right, part of the opinion polling that shows us about the strength of One Nation at the moment, where they end the year stronger than they have ever been, the Liberal Party in its weakest position in the history of polling, Labor basically where they were at the election. But again, the overall picture is basically 55-45 in favour of the lefties. The issue of immigration. And I always love when the lovies have to be confronted by the reality that a very significant number of Australians think too many people are being brought into the country. Not because they're deep, dark and racist, but there's a bunch of reasons why. 49% of people, down from 53, up, I should say. 49 is now up to 53, now believe too many people coming into the country. Why? Well, some of the reasons are worth seeing here, where... what are the solutions? Well, restricting permanent migration only to those who actually have the skills. 60% are on board for that. But what about pausing any immigration until our housing situation is caught up? That's 64%. Shh, don't tell anyone. Again, more detail inside all of this polls. Why are you concerned when it comes to migration? Well, there's not enough houses and they're pushing prices up. It puts pressure on our health and education services. These are, of course, the reasons that we have talked about this issue uphill, down dale, for as long as we have. Now, again, for some people it's going to be cultural, but where are they going to live is not an unreasonable question, Daniel. It is an area that any politician who wants to be critical of it should focus on that. OK, Treasurer, where will they live? I notice in your budget it's 200,000 people in the next year. Where will they live?
Well, exactly. I mean, I think this is the single biggest issue facing our country right now. The community is white hot with anger, and they have been now for a number of years. I mean, the number of people that have been brought into our country since COVID is more than at any time in our nation's history. We've got a housing shortage. It's hard for people to get into a GP or access local services. And then whenever you try to debate this or raise it, you're called a racist and you're accused of having nefarious motives. Yet 2/3 of Australians are saying they want a pause on immigration until we have enough housing. 2/3. That is astonishing. This is an issue that the political class simply does not want to deal with. And look, the other issue here is that this has been building for some time. Australians can feel it in their day-to-day lived experience. When they're driving around, when they're trying to get a local service, this is not just an abstract issue. Now, the Treasury types will tell you, well, if you don't bring in large numbers of migrants, the economy is going to crash. But the reality is, think about this. The last financial year, according to the ABS, only 17% of all of those who came here were on a skilled visa. 17%. Yeah, the government says they're having a skilled migration program. They're just having a laugh of us, Paul.
So, Lee, 81% of people say one of the biggest reasons why we should be pausing this stuff is because of housing, and more than half, in fact, more than 60% of people believing that the pause should continue until the housing is fixed. Surprise, One Nation's always been there. But this is one of those ones, again, the polite society. I guarantee you that opinion poll is going to be buried somewhere underneath the problems for the Libs. But the reality is that to understand the problems with the political class is to understand how migration and mass migration, remember referred to as the Libs as somehow unpleasant and offensive to say. Again, it's not about whom lives next door, it's about whether there is a place to live next door.
Spot on, Paul. And totally agree, Dan. People are feeling it. It is exactly everyday lived experiences. Why are we afraid to have these conversations? The major parties skirt around it. They won't address it. They won't deal it head on. You know, they don't want to be branded with the racial tags, hence why One Nation cops those ones, because we're the only ones that are actually coming forward and dealing with the conversation, which is purely we cannot sustain the numbers. And it's putting pressure, as you say, housing, education, infrastructure, roads, medical, etc. The list goes on. One Nation's policy is actually that we cap it at 130,000, and that works out about net neutral. You think about people leaving the country and deaths, and then by having 130, it still allows those truly skilled immigrants to come in, as you talked about, Dan, to help us where it's needed. We cannot sustain any more numbers, and we've got to stop branding these radical left tags of race as being, or cultural as being, the reason why we're wanting this conversation. We've got to look at what's best for our country and our future, and we shouldn't be shying away from it.
With you completely.